That's right. It's time for another episode of Conf T with your SC. My favorite number, well, one of my favorite numbers, 55. Episode 55. Today we're going to be talking about email threat defense. But before we jump into that, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Tom Porto. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Brian. It's
a
beautiful day. Is it Tuesday? Tuesday morning. I've got my Brian Young starter kit. We're good to go.
Now,
let's talk some email security.
For the uninformed, what is an official Brian Young starter kit?
It can include any one of three things.
Okay.
A Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I don't know of your variety. I like iced.
Mm-hmm.
Any type of hacking device like a Flipper Zero.
Okay.
Or a 3D printer. Any one of those items. And you could pass off as Brian Young. I mean, we wear the same glasses. We have the same beard. I could replace you.
Well, now I'm nervous. Okay. Well, if you know what, let's start a social media trend. Hashtag the Brian Young starter pack. Picture of you with any two of those three items. A Dunkin' Donuts coffee. We will not accept Starbucks. Sorry.
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count. A Flipper Zero or a 3D printer. Any two of those items with the hashtag Brian Young starter kit on Twitter. I'm really hoping this takes off. I'm not going to get my hopes up too high, but that would be awesome. Or just email it to us at hello@conft.show because that would make my day. Well, thank you for that, Tom. I also we have an update on the saga that has been my car. I was listening to the last episode that we just published, which was the DDoS episode, and I realized that I owe you an update, or at least our audience an update, on what has been going on with the green Taurus SHO. And I'm sad to say that the car has been replaced. It is no longer. It was just too much, but my wife ended up benefiting from this drastically. She got herself a brand new Ford Bronco Sport in the legendary, I think they call it Robin's Egg Blue. So she's happy. I'm happy. Happy wife equals happy life. And a good word I learned from my pastor years ago is unhappy wife equals knife. And I'll just leave it at
that. Yeah.
So words to live by. Awesome, Tom. Great to see you. And of course, we have a special guest today, my colleague and friend, Paul Jones. Paul, pleasure to have you on here, sir. Thank you for joining us.
And if anyone needs a leg up on the Brian Young starter kit, I do have a 3D printer for sale.
Whoa! Listen, hey, let's keep the personal.
Just getting it out there.
Next thing you're going to be talking about, your Etsy shop and your wife's woodworking business and all that, and like this is not the topic of discussion.
Damn it. Okay. Fine.
Save that to the end. If you want to know,
so why are we here?
Well, we're here to talk about email, and you're my email guy. You're the guy that I go to when we're talking about email. So,
oh, fine, we'll do that then. That's a good backup plan.
It's a good backup plan. We'll talk about the woodworking and the Etsy shop later. Definitely want to give that a plug because I've seen some of the woodwork you guys have done, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So, I just still have to figure out what I want to buy. But, Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first and what you do here at Cisco and your history here.
Sure. So, Paul Jones. So I have the same role you do, Brian. I'm a TSA for a region up here in the Northeast. I'm about to hit 10 years at Cisco, and 9 of those I was focused on email security, the email products, with a bit of web and cloud web and endpoint along the way. But primarily email for the last 9 or so years. I've been in the security space for 20-some years now. I actually came from the UK to the US with my past employer who said, "Hey, who wants to open a Boston office?" And I shoved my hand in the air as quick as I could, and never went home. And that was 2002. So I've been here 21 years. But yeah, here at Cisco, it's been mostly email, and then I switched over to do same as you guys, and generalist security for the last just over a year now.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember when you came on. I was like, "Ooh, I'm not the
newbie.
newest guy on the team anymore." I didn't actually last very long. I think it was like 6 months, and there you were. I'm like, "Oh, all right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just moving."
They can
up
hire
in
another
seniority
new guy,
now.
and then I don't have to be the newbie anymore. It'd be nice.
Yeah, not happening. Not happening. We're gonna keep you at newbie status, even if we do hire someone else. So Paul, you've been doing the email thing for a while. Let me ask you this: why is email such a big concern? I mean, it's a technology that's been around pretty much as long as the internet has been.
Yep.
Why haven't we gotten it right? In
Because
general,
it's been around as long as the internet has been, no one's really done anything to fix its inherent problems, right? It's a very mature technology that has holes you can drive a bus through. So, I mean, I've said this so many times, I get sick in the face. It's the number one threat vector. It's where the vast majority of any attack that comes to a customer is going to come from. And the technologies to stop it are very mature technologies, but they're very reactive technologies in a lot of times. So as hackers or attackers are looking for ways to get into businesses or exploit users, it's really easy for them to bypass what a lot of products can offer and what a lot of security technologies can offer in email itself. So we've had Cisco acquired IronPort back before I was at Cisco. So and IronPort's a very mature, very effective tool, but the hackers only need to win once. They only need one email to get clicked on, one link to come through, one phishing attack to land in an inbox, and they consider that a success, whereas the security providers have to block every single last one of them, and that's a big ask. It's a difficult job.
yeah, that and that's really what it boils down to. Is it just takes one to get through the cracks, and I like your analogy of it's got holes big enough for a bus to drive through, and all we need is for one to get through the cracks. It's pretty easy to do when you have such gaping holes there. Now we did, not you and I, but the podcast did an episode covering email security back in looks like October of 2019. So episode 21. Where we actually sat down with Clark Caparelli, another member of our team that Paul and I work with, to talk about the email security. And at the time, our biggest focus was around basically what came from the IronPort acquisition, which was an email gateway device, a device that basically filtered in and out the emails coming through it. And as the name gateway implies, it was only messages that went in and out, probably of the server, of the domain. But, of course, it did kind of leave that gaping hole of the internal emails and what happens when you've got device emails going from one user to the other within the network. And, of course, I think a lot of times the answer was you could kind of redirect it to go out and come back in. And there was a ton of cool features there, but it sounds like what we're talking about today with email threat defense is a separate product. It's a different solution to that. So I'd like to kind of go into I think we know why we needed to do something else, or I have a different offering, but can we go into kind of the different methods here and how it works?
Yeah. So. You're right. For years, email security was considered a gateway solution. You put it in front of everything else, and it filtered everything that came in and everything that left, and did its job. And it's still a product that many people rely on. It's a very mature product with a ton of bells and whistles and configurations and nerd knobs to tune and tweak and redirect and do all the things you need your email gateway to do. But in the early 2020 period, late 2019, early 2020, we released a product that is now called Email Threat Defense. It's had a couple of different names along the way. And this was a product that was designed to sit, instead of it in front of everything, it was designed to mix into everything. So specifically Microsoft 365 or O365 back then, tenants. So it was designed to sit next to your email instead of in front. And that gave it the ability to see not only what came in and out, but also what was being sent between people, between your tenants, between your users, between your mailboxes, which was a level of visibility we didn't really have from a gateway solution. And then, of course, March 2020 happened, and everybody went home, and everybody went cloud, and the idea of doing everything in the cloud exploded. So we have this product now that sits in the cloud, that monitors your cloud, and suddenly was getting an awful lot of attention, an awful lot of deployments, and it was just the right place at the right time for that kind of tool. And so at launch, it was designed to be really simple and almost supplemental to what you were already doing at a gateway. But very quickly, we realized that with the amount of people at home and the amount of people who are now suddenly panicking and going cloud with their mail environment, would take an Exchange into O365, that this could be a standalone product, it could do everything that it needed to do, and it's still much simpler than a gateway solution. If you need to do really fine control over mail, you want a gateway. But if you just need to protect the inbox, if you just need to stop bad stuff getting to users, then email threat defense is really useful for that. And really well placed to do that.
Now, you mentioned the integration with Office 365. Is that the only one that we integrate with today?
So at launch, it was just O365. Gmail is still not integrated fully or integrated, but it's on its way. But we do now use our own gateway solutions as a sender or as a relay for mail. So if you don't have O365, you can still use it and relay mail off your existing Cisco gateway to ETD, Email Threat Defense. So if you've got, if you want that internal visibility, or if you just want to send incoming mail, you can do both. You can pick and choose. So the Google integration is something that's been asked for. It's been roadmapped. It's been worked on. A lot of schools need that kind of stuff. It's not there yet, but almost every time we have a BU level conversation, it's brought up, it's been worked on, it's on its way, it's just not here today.
That's fair. So it sounds like you can look at something like ETD and Gateway, whether that's what we would call CES, which is the cloud hosted, or ESA, which is basically the same thing, but it's an appliance, virtual or physical, that lives in your environment. So it sounds like these two can kind of work together and complement each other when they need to, but it sounds like if you're an Office 365 customer, the CES or ESA piece might seem redundant compared to what Office 365 is doing. So would you agree with that or no?
No. So back in the day of early release of the product, it was designed to supplement what O365 was already doing. So Microsoft, they're always trying to be a security involved in the security piece, right? But ultimately, their speciality isn't in the security layer. So they'll do antivirus and anti-spam, and those are very well-known, well-understood technologies. Right. But when it comes to targeted phishing or spear phishing or ransomware emails or spoofed emails, or the general layer of email security that goes beyond, is this spam, and is this a Viagra email, or does this have a virus attached to it? That's where ETD was originally placing itself, was to say, you already do this in O365, so why don't we just do it with these other engines, with these other technologies? Since then, we have added antivirus and anti-spam in there, so it does the whole range. So even if you don't have the Microsoft stuff turned on, we will still be there. But it's also independent of the gateway. So while it can work with CES and ESA, it can also work with other products. If you've got another product rolled out, if you have a competitor product rolled out, and you want that internal visibility, or even just that second layer of eyeballs on your mail flow, you can roll ETD out alongside anyone else at the gateway level, and add that Talos, intelligence that comes with the Cisco products, and put that layer on top of whoever else you're doing. And that's not to say that they're missing stuff, but the nature of email is everybody misses stuff at some point.
Right.
Every analyst will tell you we block 99.999% of known spam, and it's that 0.0001% that's the one that gets you in trouble. So we can roll out really quickly, sit on top of anyone, and give you that extra layer.
Nice. The you mentioned the Viagra email, and I'm curious.
I didn't.
Obviously, something like wait, what?
I didn't buy any.
I'm more of a Cialis man myself. Anyway, I'm going to cut all of that. You mentioned the Viagra email, and I'm curious because the obviously emails are always getting through, right? Regardless of what you have. I mean, it's very rare that in my Cisco email do I see anything. And I have to admit, considering, I've been with the company now for 7 years, I get tons of emails.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, I can probably count, I don't even know if I could even count on one hand, because I don't think it would get to one.
Yeah.
The number of times I've gotten, a spam message, a Viagra email, whatever. I just don't get them. Yeah. So obviously I imagine it's because we're eating our own dog food here, and probably a mix of the two, a hybrid environment. But I'm curious, when it comes to kind of switching between reactive and proactive, what's the secret sauce behind email threat defense, and in terms of kind of what's giving it that extra one up to be able to determine, hey, this is probably not a business related. This is probably something that they're not going to want in their inbox.
So there's a couple of pieces there. When you started talking about things like the Viagra email, those are traditional spam, and that's
Right.
been something that every security organization's been investigating and researching for 20 plus years, right? And there's all kinds of engines under the skin of every product, and research teams and honeypots and ways to look at what is flagging this as being a piece of spam. The trick is separating the stuff that doesn't look like spam, because spam's easy to catch these days. But what about the phishing email that doesn't look like spam? The phishing email that looks like somebody sent you a document and they want you to log into O365 to open that document. Your boss is emailing you saying, buy me these gift cards and send them to this address. I need them in the next hour. The phishing emails that are much, much harder to catch. So what they did with ETD was, and I hate using the term because it's such a trendy term today, but it's really been around for a lot longer, which is AI, right? The AI layer.
AI. Tom, we've never talked about AI on this show.
If you guys haven't heard about it, you may want to Google that. You might find it on Google.
How do you spell it again? AI?
With an A and an I, yeah.
AYE? EYE? No? Okay. AI.
So we've had machine learning and AI engines in Talos forever. We've used a lot of those engines to say, what makes this email look like phishing? Who did it come from? How did it route? What's in the body? What are in the headers? What's in the subject? What are the links? Where do they go? And inside ETD, we'll actually build you a picture, and we'll say, here's an email that came from this person to this person, and here are flags in this email that make us think this is wrong. So maybe the reply to and the from address are different. That's a flag. That doesn't mean it's malicious. They could just have their mailbox set up weirdly, but it is a flag.
Right.
The URL might be going to, Microsoft.de, and you're in North America, or it might be going to something with a misspelling. Inherently, that's not bad. Maybe they just misspelled the URL, but put that in there as a flag as well. So we start building these flags, and the AI engines and the machine learning stuff underneath uses all the various flags and markers and investigates all the different things in the mail to come up with a picture and say, this mail is probably a threat. This mail is probably a phishing email. This mail is probably a spoofed mail. Or this mail is marketing. Or this mail is spam. Or this mail does have viruses in it. And these are the things that ETD will then build a policy to say, I don't want those go into my inbox, or I don't want them left in my inbox. Move them to trash. Move them to junk. Move them to an archive folder. Delete them entirely. And that's based on your risk aversion and your company's profile, right? Whatever you want to do with them. But these, we talked about this earlier, but we recently acquired Armor Blocks. Cisco. They've just announced that we're acquiring Armor Blocks, and they're a machine learning company. They've been doing it for a decade. But that's all behind the scenes technologies that will go into Talos. I would imagine, I haven't been consulted, but my guess is that what Armor Blocks is doing will go into Talos research and what they look at. And email's going to be a huge beneficiary of that, because it's stuff we've already been doing, but this is, adding to the technology stack and adding to that layer of looking at mail, looking at incoming stuff and saying what's good, what's bad, and why, and then taking action on it.
Interesting. So was ETD developed in-house? I mean, the way that it stands today. So this is not part of an acquisition. This was something that we felt the need to develop and just
100% in-house. Yeah, this is it's unusual for Cisco, I know, but this was a 100% in-house development. It was brought up as a bit of a skunkworks project in 2018-19 by people in the BU, by people on the product management team, and they developed this as a tool. And like I say, initially it started with the idea of let's augment what you already have, but then with the pandemic and the huge shift to cloud, it very, very quickly became this, oh wait, we have a really good opportunity to turn a skunkworks supplemental product into somebody's actual full-blown mail solution, and let's go that path. And that's where it's been for the last, 3 years now, 3 and a bit years since then. Yeah, 100% in-house.
Wow. And let me ask you this, because I mean, just trying to wrap my head around it, right? Because I know that we have, obviously, let's say I'm a customer and I have Office 365. Now I know there's some packages that come in with built-in email security.
Yep.
Obviously, it's in the cloud. I don't have an on-prem Exchange server. Maybe before I switched over to Office 365, I had an ESA appliance, Ironport appliance, whatever. What are kind of the different and suggested kind of mixes of security when it comes to the CES, ESA, email threat defense, the offering with Microsoft? Mm-hmm. What are kind of the different options and maybe pros and cons of doing it that way?
The simplest option is always to stay with what Microsoft offer you. And that will give you antivirus and anti-spam and a few other little bits of mail security. But the vast majority of environments have very quickly found that doesn't give them the security they need. They need something more than simply block spam, block malware. They need a lot more detail than that.
Because that's only looking at things like maybe the SPF record on the domain that's coming from and matching if
potentially not even that. I mean, they'll look at, does it have an attachment, and is that attachment viral? Does it have Viagra in it? Is it trying to sell you something, and is it spammy? And beyond that, I haven't dug into it recently, but they're always adding to it because obviously that's a path they want to go down. But primarily, it's a very straightforward, very traditional, is this spam, is this viral, don't let it go through. And the layers and the nuances that say, what are the SPF records? What are the DKIM certificates? Did it pass DMARC? Is it spoofed? Does it have a link in it? What does that link do? Those layers don't really happen in the Microsoft world directly. Okay. And so that's where ETD comes in. I've deployed a lot of Cisco products in the last decade, and this is, with the potential exception of Umbrella, one of the easiest products to deploy, because you have a tenant, you point a journal rule at it, and it's now working. And it's that simple. It's There's a 3-minute video on YouTube that walks you through start to finish the entire process in real time and has time for an introduction and an exit speech. It's a really, really fast setup process for ETD. So once it's up and running, you're there. You've got visibility into your mail. You've got access to your policies for saying what you want the mail to do. And all these extra things are just on. There's no super nuanced, super detailed policy setting here. It's what am I looking for? What do I do when I see it? Do I do an inbound, outbound, and my internal mail? And you're done. Job done. So it's really quick and easy to get going. But that's where the gateway comes in. What if you're an environment that needs to have my HR team running with a different policy to my sales team? What if my CEOs need something really strict and my tech support guys need something a bit more lax so they can receive bigger emails? What if I want to control file types? What if I want to control the scoring of a URL and what I do with an email based on how the URL was scored? Those are the nuances and the fine details that you're going to want a gateway product for, because Ironport's had a couple of decades of maturity and policy building and granularity baked right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the starkest differences between CES. We'll call it Ironport, just for simplicity, because CES and ESA.
I don't know if we're allowed to call it Ironport anymore.
How about traditional email security products?
There we go. Gateway. I call it Gateway.
It's Cisco Secure Email.
It
Cisco
is.
Secure.
Yeah, there was a rebranding, a year ago, and it's Cisco Secure Email is the official term, I think.
So Cisco Secure Email versus Email Threat Defense. Those are the biggest differences really are going to be, you're going to have a ton of those nerd knobs set up. And also, I remember from onboarding a few people into ESA and CES that a lot of those things needed to be tweaked. Like it was a lot of work to get things up and running. It reminds me a little bit of like Firepower, right? Like you want to go, Cisco Secure Firewall, right? You want to go and get
Jesus.
Hey,
keep up, Brian. Keep up.
The Post-it note with all the changes fell off my monitor. It was
Drop
too
amp
long.
for endpoints while you're at it.
Well, hey, you even know what Landcope is there, Tom?
I do.
Okay, good. But like I kind of want to compare the two. Like you've got secure email, the CES ESA piece. It's kind of like secure firewall or Firepower, versus ETD is kind of the Meraki-fication of it, right? It's in the cloud. It's easy, very simple interface. I mean, I remember I've set up a time.
Don't get confused, because secure email could be deployed in the cloud too.
You know what, Tom?
See.
I know it can be in the cloud. I'm saying the nerd knobs.
I know.
Jeez, you know what? You have been taken out of the Brian Young Starter Pack Club. throw away your coffee right now.
I gotta go get Starbucks.
Just chuck it behind you. I don't even know what I was saying now. Okay, yeah. So Meraki-fication, simple to use. I remember, Paul. I had set up like an hour with you to be like, hey, listen, like show me ETD. Like, I said, I got ready. I had my notepad.
We were done.
Dude, I was like, wait, that's it? Like, he's like, yeah, but it does it all. Like, it's super simple. And of course,
they've, because it's 100% cloud first, they've also got a really fast development cycle for features.
Right.
So when they want to add something, it's out 2 weeks later, a month later. Whereas on the gateway side, it's got a 20-year history to it. It's got multiple release versions. It needs to support multiple appliances, virtual appliances, be hosted in the cloud. So when a new version's released on the gateway side, the process of getting stuff in there, bugs fixed in that, is a much more kind of old school traditional process to go through. Right. And that's fine. I mean, there's always, as long as I can remember, there's always been this project to make the GUI more up to date, to bring new features in. And I think we're at the point now with the gateway product that if we change the GUI, we'll have all the old school Ironport admins screaming in fury, because they love it so much. They're so familiar with it. I'm sure the firewall world is a similar world where they get very attached to things like the interface. Whereas ETD was built ground up to be run from a cloud tenant in your browser, and really simple. And arguably too simple. I'd love to see a few more things in there that let you be a bit more granular, but that's the world that it's shooting for, is people who want to set it up, set some configurations, just leave it alone and not play with it. And that's the world of email wasn't like that until a few years ago.
Yeah.
To that point, do we think over time we're going to start to see more of those gateway-like features probably make its way in, or are we going to try to keep it as simple as possible, without muddying the water too much? My only hang up there, right, is the naming convention, right, alone kind of makes it difficult, right? Like, yes, secure email can be deployed in the cloud in Cisco's data centers, but it's not the same as a cloud-first tool. Right, exactly. So, and because I've had a few conversations with customers, who are secure email customers now and have been asking about, the newer offering, and I guess it really just comes down to our point is do you need the nerd knobs or not? Or
right,
there are things in that product, right, that can certainly supplement the gateway, which is great, but it's just a matter of whether do you find that important enough for the extra spend, right?
Right, and I think it's if very quickly talking to customers whether they need the gateway or not. If they start talking about how they need to control the flow of mail, if they need to set themselves up with outbound DMARC, if they need to have different levels of policy for different levels of user and have role-based access to the GUI, and if people are going down that path, that's a pretty clear indication right up front that they're going to want a gateway solution, because they want that level of control of their mail flow. They see the mail as something they need to manage and utilize, whereas ETD is a security layer on top of mail. It's not there to say your HR team are different to your sales team, are different to the C levels. It's there to say, don't let bad stuff land in inboxes, and be really straightforward. And to your question, will there be more features from the gateway come to ETD? Probably. It's a very active, fast development cycle in the world of ETD. We've recently seen features come in that allow you to create high priority user lists, so they get a little bit more aggressive monitoring. If you can put a CEO's email address in there, and it will do more stuff on their mailbox, or be more aggressive with the results it gets on their mailbox. So there are things coming down like that, but I don't know that it will ever become the gateway solution or replacement for the gateway. They're doing a lot of interesting things with the APIs between the two. So ETD has more engines, or more different engines, than the gateway does in a lot of cases. It utilizes the machine learning engines in different ways and generates the different results. Whereas the gateway can obviously use things like the incoming connection that your ETD environment never sees, because nothing ever connects to it other than Microsoft. So the gateway has different data to the ETD solution. And there's a lot of interesting things happening on the API side that will let them share data, maybe leverage the data. I haven't dug into that in super deep detail yet, but will it replace it? Maybe not, but there's certainly going to be a lot more entwined in the future.
So what you're saying is the gateway isn't dead.
Oh, absolutely. No, there are people who there are customer types out there who need that level of control with the gateway. And I import I keep saying mature technology. It's 20 years old. It's been around a long time. There's people who have entire careers are wrapped around it. So when it comes to controlling mail flow, they know how to do it in iimport far easier than they can do it in Exchange or in some other mail solution. They can just go and create a content filter, go and create a mail filter, a message filter, create a new policy, and it's super quick and easy to do, something that would be quite tricky to do within Exchange.
It's almost like a similar analogy to.
Can we pause right there? I'm sorry. Can we pause right there? My wife's calling. Hold on. Hey, what's up?
This host, I swear.
Yeah, I am.
It's like it's his first one.
Oh, what's wrong? What card? Hold on. How much?
So, Tom, you're in
How
Albany?
much was it for?
Yeah, I'm actually in. I'm actually out of Saratoga.
Okay.
Yeah, covering the Albany region.
Okay. That's not too far from me.
Well, it doesn't make any
No.
sense because
Nope. Yeah, my account manager lives in
More than
Saratoga
enough
too,
money.
so we're close, which is nice.
Nice.
Yeah, covering
that's really
all
weird.
of Eastern New York
Yeah,
and
it
Vermont,
doesn't
pretty much.
say that your card's
Very
turned
cool.
off.
Yeah, I'm 30 minutes from the Vermont border here.
That's really weird.
Oh yeah, close.
I used,
I'll have to look at
I used
that
to
when I
hike
get
up
back.
Killington all the
But no,
time.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love you. Bye.
Did you forget to move money into the account?
What's that?
Did you forget to move money into the account?
No, that's the thing. There's money in there. I don't know why it got declined. It's more than enough. That's why I was like, what? Because I was just, like, obviously keeping an eye on it all. And I'm like, how much did you try to spend? It's like, no, unless you were trying to spend like 5 times that amount, it was going to go through.
Someone flipper zeroed your wife's card.
Probably. All right. Sorry, man. When she called the first time, I declined it. When she called the second time, I said I better answer it.
Yeah.
Are you on a call?
Oh,
yeah,
man.
that's why I declined it the first time. What's wrong? All right, we'll talk when we get home. Well, I answered the call now, so let's fucking talk. Oh, the card got declined. Okay.
Use a different one.
Shouldn't have.
Right.
I just used a different card. Okay. This could have been an email.
This could have waited.
I just realized we recorded all of that.
It's fine. I won't
All
cut
right.
it out.
Yeah. All right, continue, Tom. I'm sorry.
No, what I was saying is, and I've now completely forgot. No, I got it. The analogy you just used, like the gateway isn't dead. It's similar to the firewall, right? People thought with all these new things coming out, right? The firewall's dead. All this new next gen stuff. But the reality is, you still need that firewall in a lot of cases.
You still need the motor on the castle.
Probably need it.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Even with umbrella, all that stuff. I mean, you still need something to protect the edge, and it's going to give you the most nerd knobs. So it's a very similar analogy.
Yeah, and people are resistant to change, right? If they've used the firewall or used the gateway solution forever, if their job has email admin in the title, they're not going to want the easy solution. They've built a world around this complex gateway that can do a lot of different things, and has a place, and even if that place is just job security. So ETD's there. It's I think right up front we saw it as a small business solution, people who needed a quick and easy extra layer of security, but it's proven itself time and time again. There's plenty of big enterprises using it now, and like I say, often to augment something they already have, but sometimes just alongside O365 or Microsoft 365 as a layer of security just to supplement that, and then they don't use something at the gateway because they find they don't need it necessarily. Not really.
Yeah, and you mentioned the if you changed the UI, the hardcore Ironport users would probably revolt.
Yeah.
I remember I had a customer that was interested in our email security offering, and this was years ago, probably about 6 years ago now, and we were talking to him like, yeah, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this, and we brought up a demo, and he goes, hold on a minute, this looks really familiar to our old Ironports. I said, yeah, it's basically.
There's a reason.
He goes, we used to have Ironport. We loved it. Like, the demo's over. Like, whatever. We'll buy it. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
So you got some hardcore fans coming from the Ironport days, which
I used to joke that in the decade I was at Cisco, the only thing that changed to the GUI was we changed the shade of blue. And that was it. And other than adding things, that's pretty true. We did have a new GUI release at one point that was being worked on, and even now if you open up the dashboard, there's a banner at the top that says check out the new GUI, and it's been there about 5 years, so it's not the new GUI anymore, and it's I don't know what the plans are for that, for the ETD, for integrating with ETD, if they're just going to put an ETD front end and slap an API on it. I don't know, but there's a lot of interesting stuff going on to integrate them. It's definitely not something we're getting rid of or moving away from. It's a very, very actively developed solution, and ETD's just there to sit next to it.
because you mentioned with the gateway solution, right? It's looking at a lot. It's able to have access to a lot more of the information on the connection, the inbound connection, right? And anyone that understands how email works, right, from the initial MX lookup in the DNS records and the connection to that server, right, and the handshakes and everything, all of that is going to be seen and subsequently controlled by the secure email platform, whether that's appliance-based, cloud-based, whatever. It's going to be controlled and seen by that.
Yeah.
The email threat defense doesn't see it because it's, of course, its method of gaining the information is through journaling out of currently Office 365.
Yeah.
So it's not going to see that connection information. It's not going to be able to make any real determination based on that. The assumption is that if it got through that phase, whatever that is, whether it's the secure email or, the Office 365's, filters and stuff there, that, okay, well, it passed through that, so that piece of it's okay. I'm just going to focus on what I can see, which is things like headers, message content, links, stuff like that. And I think that's where this kind of, and keep me honest here, Paul, it, to me, obviously there's you mentioned there's a lot of engines, but a lot of it seems like a lot of it's behavioral and heuristics based.
Yep.
And that's where
ETD,
that's where the AI
definitely.
piece comes in.
Yeah, it's looking not only at what's in the message, but how the message is routing through an environment, who got it, who sent it, what's their relationship to each other, what has it been in the past, do they email each other often, do they not email each other ever, is this the first one? Back in the day, the gateway, the connection point, or the point of connection when an incoming mail server was sending mail to you, that point of connection used to be like the number one place to stop incoming threats, because we would look at that with our gateway solution and we'd say, this incoming IP, we have a reputation for that. It's located in Russia. It's been seen to send spam emails out of Talos, and we would give it a scale. We'd say -10 to +10. We call it the sender-based reputation. And years ago, it used to be that alone would block 80% of bad incoming stuff, 70%. If we saw that in the 60% range, that was considered low, and we'd need to tweak the ranges a little bit. But you would expect to see that block purely on the incoming IP address. That hasn't been the case for a while now. The attackers know not to use bad IPs. They will host tenants in O365 or Gmail or wherever. They'll mask, they'll route them through different locations. They'll do all kinds of tricks to make sure the incoming connecting IP is fine, it's or clean, seen as fine. So then all the other stuff now comes in. And that's where, is the sender a bad domain? What's in the mail? Where's the URLs going? Does it have a file? What's the file? Is it zero-day malware? Is it known malware? All the content inspection layers come in. With ETD, on top of the content stuff, but also the behavioral. Did this come into 100 people at once? Did it come to one? Have they communicated back and forth before? All that kind of layered stuff that the gateway can't see because it's not connected inside O365 come in.
I'm glad you mentioned the did it go to 100 people, because that was going to be my next question, especially on the internal side. So, we mentioned this before about the gateway, is that unless you've got some pretty, a little bit of duct tape, right? Some duct tape and WD-40, and you've kind of tweaked it to be able to send internal messages through the gateway to come out and come back in again. The gateway device is not going to generally see emails internally. And I remember in my previous role as a network admin for a local school district, we ran into an issue once where a single user's email, their account was compromised. Of course, as a school district, we're in Google Apps, and that person sent out an email to pretty much everyone asking them to go, it was some type of phishing email. I don't remember if it was to buy cards or whatever, but basically the problem was that we were also on vacation, which did not help. So I just had to pretty much reset everyone's password. and we had no means of being able to reset your password from outside of the network, which was fun. But I digress. In this case, a single user's account was compromised, a login was successful, the email was sent not from a spoofed address, not from a bad IP. It all stayed within the email system itself. But you're telling me that ETD in place, obviously, let's scratch the part that it's not available on Google Apps yet. This was in an Office 365 environment. The ETD in place, looking at things like the content of the message, whether it's, hey, I need you to go here. It has some urgency to it. It was the same message was sent to 500 people and included a link to a Bitly address and, or stuff like those kind of things would all throw those flags that when kind of measured against and compared to would flag and cause the system to take action on that email.
Well, it's one of those things. Sending an email to 500 people might be entirely business legitimate. Right. You might be HR sending out a reminder there's a vacation on Monday, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with sending an email to 500 people. But if you're a new person to the environment, or if you're a spoofed incoming address and you're sending an email to 500 recipients, if you put everybody on the CC line instead of the BCC line, and if your body of your mail has a Bitly link where that's unusual for your mail, those will all be red flags. And there's a solid chance that ETD will say, yep, that's enough. That's enough. I'm going to take this email that's in people's inboxes, move it to their trash folder. It's gone. It's out of their visibility. They don't see it anymore. It's in the trash. And you as an admin could go, you know what? That was HR. They sent it from home instead of their work address. They're idiots. Let's recover it. So you can go and search the subject, select them all, and you can say move back to inbox. And DTD, because it's integrated into O365, can do that remediation stuff on the fly. So it will just move them right back, put them back in people's inboxes, and the user doesn't really know that for 5 minutes it was sitting in their trash folder.
That's cool. Maybe that's what happened to that email, that my test email that didn't get back. Paul, you laugh. We had a fan that reached out and emailed the hello@conft.show address, and Tom was like, "Oh, did you see it?" I'm like, "No, I didn't see it," and it never arrived to me for some reason.
Did it go through ETD?
I assume we have it. The problem is I couldn't tell, so I sent a test email to myself from my Gmail account, and it took 15 minutes for it to come in. Yeah, and the timestamps were all off. Like I was like, "Huh, that's really weird," because Gmail said that it sent at 11:18 and Outlook said that it received it at 11:25. I'm like, that's very strange. So I wonder if it just got held up because it's a forwarding address that goes to
maybe
my Cisco account.
So the unsung hero of ETD is I've sold ETD to customers based purely on the strength of its automatic and manual remediation. Mm-hmm. So not, hey, we'll give you extra security, but hey, you can go and select something and say move to trash, and it will just go and do it. Quicker than you can do in Exchange, quicker than you can write a shell script to do it. You can just search for a keyword, a sender, a subject line, a file name, select it, move to trash. Done. It's gone. Out of everyone's inboxes, it's in the trash can. Or recover.
Super helpful if HR accidentally sends payroll information to the entire company.
If HR emailing in from their personal Gmail account instead of their company account and screw up, and you can recover and remediate. And that process is an unsung hero because to do that in Exchange is shell script territory. It's a pain. So to just open a dashboard, search for the file name that you're currently tinkering with in, maybe your SOC are doing some research into a file share, well, go search for that file, find it, and then tell move to trash. Maybe it's not malicious at all. That's why it's in their inbox. But your SOC think there's a threat there, so they say, hey, go take care of this. And that's not even talking about integrating with SecureX, integrating with the upcoming XDR, the automations that you can write around it. That's all there as well, which, if that's the direction a company's gone down, then it's super, super useful.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the remediation piece because that was my next question is because we're not doing the kind of single pass-through gateway piece, right? Mm-hmm. And this was actually something we had talked about with Clark back on episode 21, where we did have at the time, we were introducing and leveraging APIs to be able to go in and
Yeah.
retroactively pull an email out of someone's mailbox, which was awesome.
Yep.
But the problem with a gateway device in general, whether it's a firewall or any other type of gateway, is that it's, for the most part, single pass. You have to make that decision on the way. And of course, with email, you can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I want you to run some extra tests on this. Maybe look up the file hash. Maybe it's not something that's been seen before. So let's upload that file up to ThreatGrid and blow it up and see what happens. So let's hold on to that email for 10, 15 minutes, because it's not that big of a deal if it's held on to. Whereas, of course, you don't really have that option when you're using a firewall and you're holding on to web traffic for 15 minutes. But with email, you can do that. So I love that we had that capability, but now we're going in and being able to do whatever we want to that email, move it to the trash, move it back into the inbox from this tool. And because we have that direct journaling and API integrations with Office 365, we are doing it right to their mailbox in real time.
Well, and we're in a day now where phishing there are cloud-based phishing as a service solutions.
Yep.
Talos announced over the winter period, I think, one called Greatness. And this is a business-focused phishing solution that's designed to send email that does not look, act, or behave in any malicious manner whatsoever. It sends a HTML file to somebody, and that HTML file has a O365 login. And as far as the user's concerned, I'm being sent a file, I'll log in, I'll get my file. But in reality, what's happening is this phishing as a service is sitting in the middle, and it intercepts their login. It presents them with a login screen that has the banners and their pre-filled email address. Everything looks legit, but then it intercepts their credentials, and then
So it's like a proxy.
even if they 2FA in, it intercepts the certificate, and now they can get into your O365 tenant. So it's a legitimate, official, fool the user looking email that's designed to also fool any security solution, because there's nothing inherently wrong with it necessarily. But ETD will see that come in and say, hey, that's a HTML file. That's a bit weird. The URL is going somewhere we know is bad, because obviously Talos have done the research. They know this URL is bad. What's at that URL? Oh, it's a O365 login. Let's not let that email sit in their inbox, and we'll just dump it in the trash can, get it right out of there. So each one of those will be a marker for that mail, and then the automatic remediation comes in and takes care of it. So users in practice, users don't ever see anything in their inbox. In reality, emails might sit in there for a second. Usually before they get a desktop notification, it's already been taken care of if it's a threat. So it's really quick.
Wow. No, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I remember kind of seeing this come up and come into fruition in 2019, and not really sure where it was going to kind of fit. And I think even in the beginning there was a little bit of question there, from a broader audience within Cisco, of where it was going to kind of fit. Was it going to...
We already have a solution. Why do we need another one?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, as you said, the rush to remote work that happened with COVID and everything else, it kind of found its niche there and really has been shining.
It spawned an industry as well.
Yep.
Back then, Gartner and all the various analysts were looking at email as a mature technology that they didn't need to keep researching. Like, there hasn't been a magic quadrant on email security for a long time. But when everyone went cloud, all these other small startups and big vendors started putting out similar style solutions, plug straight into O365 type solutions, and they all do it in slightly different ways. And it's a case where we can actually say, well, we were here first, because this is something we put on market. I want to say it was like February 2020 it was officially released, and it was in beta testing through 2019, and I remember it as a Skunkworks project before that. So it's a case where we can say, look, we were here first. We've got this solution. We've developed it. We've got a roadmap ahead of us. We've got a runway behind us that's got stuff on it. It's a solid tool. And as long as you got O365 to plug it in, you're going to get a lot more flexibility than you do today in Exchange.
Wow. Awesome stuff. It's impressive to see that we are still working on the largest attack vector, and it's important. It's
Depending
just, it's
whose
not going
numbers
away.
you use, there's something like 3.5 billion phishing emails a day out there. So,
Jesus.
I mean, and they don't all have to hit. Just one of them hit a business, and
Just one. It
they're
just
exploiting the
takes
human
one.
factor, right? It's how do you fix the human factor? A phishing email that looks like it's coming from your boss that has a link to a service you expect to be using. You click it, you log in, game over.
Wow. Well, the S in email stands for security, right?
Yeah, here we go again.
How many of those do you have?
as many as
Yeah,
I.
so you were thinking about all night last night?
No, that one just popped up. I was like, oh man, this would be a great time to put that IoT joke in there. And I'm like, I can do it with email.
He's been preparing these jokes for the last 3 hours.
Hey, listen, where's my dad? Oh, there it is. My dad joke loading right there. You can't really see it behind the trophy. That's a #1 dad trophy too. So yes. No, for those that didn't get the reference, I had heard this great joke the other day, and it said the S in IoT stands for security, and Paul got it pretty much right away. Tom was like, I think you need your coffee, Brian. And I'm like, no, I think you need yours. Think about that for a second. So, yes, the S in IoT and the S in email, they both stand for security. So, great stuff. Tom, any other questions for our amazingly brilliant guest today?
You forgot
No,
Handsome.
I think this was great. And
handsome.
honestly, yeah, and handsome. Honestly, email security it's just one of those products where it's just like, to the point it's been around for so long, you almost kind of forget about it. But it's awesome to see Cisco coming out with something fresh and new and
That was developed
really
in-house. That's cool.
developed in house.
Entirely in-house.
That is, yeah, that's not something we can unfortunately say as much lately. But Cisco's been picking up the pace on some in-house stuff lately, and that's pretty exciting. So yeah, I think it's I'm really excited to see, honestly, not only what it can do. Well, obviously talked about what it can do now, but where it can go. I think that's really exciting, right? We've taken that whole Meraki-ification mentality to a lot of our security products, and I think it's just going to make it easier for the smaller IT departments, especially to keep up with the latest and greatest security for their enterprises. So
Yeah.
I have no idea if he listens, but I'll give a shout out to Uzman, whose Skunkworks project this was originally, and he's been the driving force for a bunch of years now behind this. So without him, I don't know we'd be here, but we are, and that's good.
should credit him in the LinkedIn post, Brian.
I'll make sure to do that. No, definitely. I think
Then he will listen.
Yeah, right. Wait, you mentioned me. What? Yeah,
And then I'll get emails that tell me all the things I said wrong. Or
Why on earth didn't you have Brian contact me?
I could have done so much better.
I could have given a much better explanation than you did, Paul. Well, the only reason we wanted Paul here is to give him the opportunity to give a plug for his wife's woodworking business because
I thought it was pity. That's why I'm here.
Well, Tom and I needed someone not as good looking as us to be on the YouTube video,
but with a beard.
well, so.
The beard was essential.
Yeah, we need the face sweater. So, but yeah, no,
He's got the accent though, so
I do.
that's
it makes
yeah,
he makes up for it.
I can say any old crap, and
makes
as long
up
as I do
for
it with
it.
an English accent,
He sounds brilliant no matter what he says. This whole thing could have been a lie, and I'll believe everything he says.
For the record, it's not a lie.
This is true.
just to please the lords, it's bad enough. I don't remember. I think it was Paul that said the stupid HR people. I'm like, oh boy. Not our
ours.
HR.
Not
ours,
our
not
HR. Just for clarity, not ours. Yeah. Someone else's.
a very
someone
generalized
stupid
statement.
HR.
All of our
Paul.
customers.
Or them.
You know who they are.
A hypothetical stupid HR department.
Yes.
Why are you sending emails about payroll stuff from your personal email anyway? Forget moving it into the inbox. I'm going to delete them and disable your account. You are now in email prison. It's funny because you always, speaking about email, everyone's gone through this. Everyone that's listened to this show that's been in IT that's either seen it or had to fight the battles, but the reply to all, debacles, right?
Yes.
Like you guys, we actually, I found, like years ago, I came across the group policy that you could edit to disable the reply to all button in Outlook.
It should be on by default.
It really should, but I thought about it, I'm like, we could make this group policy reply to all jail and just put people in there and out as we need to. It's like, no, you need to stop doing reply to all and not even tell them, because the perfect part of it is that I tested this policy out, when you turned it on, it would just gray out the button. It was there, but you couldn't click it. So it was obvious that it was disabled, but there's obviously no way around it. But of course you could just go into webmail. But I was like, man, it's been a while since we've had a reply to all storm, but even we suffer from it.
We've had a couple of doozies, but have you really had a good one if it didn't end up on the register?
Yeah, that's true. Well, wasn't it? I think it was ExxonMobil that still has the record for the largest one. I think so. I could be wrong, but
shortly after I joined Cisco, so maybe 8 years ago now, I remember we had a doozy that ended up on the register. I was like, that's how I know I've made it in my career, is when I worked for somewhere that ended up on the register for its reply to all email storm.
Well, the worst part of it is, like, when it happens here, you get the all, please remove me from this list.
Yeah.
Please remove, and it's like, and then you get people like, please stop replying. It's like, oh my God.
Yep.
You can't really do anything. Like, it gets out of control very
Been a
quickly.
while. I've missed one. We're due for one. It's been a while.
It really has been a while. Yeah, we should be getting one soon. Go ahead and start that one up, Tom. Use your
You got it.
There you go.
use your components from your Brian Young starter pack. Get
Done.
an email reply to all storm.
Send it
going.
from brianyoung@cisco.com.
No. Oh boy, I'm gonna get in so much trouble for this episode. But Paul, tell me about your woodworking, you and your wife's woodworking business.
Oh God. So
You guys
when
make some cool
we
stuff.
are not working, so evenings, weekends, holidays, mornings, lunchtimes, every other waking hour, my wife started,
Even the sleeping ones.
even the sleeping ones. Yeah, a year and a half ago, my wife said, I want to make cutting boards. I want to make a cutting board. How hard could it be? So off we go to YouTube. How hard could it be? We made one, and someone said, can you make me one? So we made them one. And next thing I know, she has a business. There's no more garage. It's a woodwork shop. We've got a big CNC, a big laser, table saw, band saw, dust collection, the whole kit and caboodle. And she's got a business doing cutting boards, charcuterie boards, cribbage boards, you name it. We small wooden stuff. That's what we do when we're not saving the world.
One email at a time.
One email at a time.
So where can we find? You have a storefront we can plug here.
beesboardsma.com if you want to plug it. And people will say, where'd the name come from? Well, my wife's name's Bee and she makes boards, and we're in Massachusetts. So we weren't very imaginative
Perfect.
when it came to the name. beesboardsma.com.
Sounds like you did not use ChatGPT to come up with that name.
We didn't know. We didn't ask ChatGPT to come up with that one.
No episode is complete without a mention of ChatGPT.
There you go.
So beesboardsma.com. We'll be sure to put a link in the show notes.
Appreciated.
No, appreciate you coming on. All the best. I still have to order something.
That isn't a requirement. You don't have to say nice things and order things.
No,
Just the nice things are fine.
I love the work you do with the resin and the wood. Like I've always loved the mixture of reclaimed or repurposed wood and resin. I always thought it looked really, really cool. So got a lot of cool stuff. But
Thanks.
Paul, thank you for joining us today. Tom, good to see you as always. And of course, you, audio listener or podcast watcher. Let's see, what are we at now? I think it just flashed up 1,157 views, I think was the last number I saw. So
Crushing it.
Keep them coming in. Remember, hashtag Brian Young's Starter Pack, showing 2 of the 3 items, a Dunkin' Donuts coffee, iced, hot, whatever. I actually ended up getting a cold foam, what was it? Cold foam, cold brew. That was good. That was pretty good. That was a couple days ago. Either Dunkin' Donuts coffee of your choice, a Flipper Zero, or a 3D printer, 2 of the 3, go ahead and post a photo with that hashtag, or send it to us an email, hello@conft.show. We'll make sure that our email threat defense does not block it and we get to see it. But thank you as always for listening to another episode. Join us next time. We have I think next we have a recap of Cisco Live, which is going on I think right now. So we're gonna have a recap episode of Cisco Live for those that weren't able to make it out there, and join us for then. Until next time, stay safe out there. Don't forget to save that config.